And we're back. It turns out after we left, we just kept talking. Now we're back. This is part two of this fine interview with the 8-bit artist himself. And in this chapter, we're going to talk a little bit about philanthropy. So, Chris, you're involved to some extent with the Child's Play organization. Why don't you talk a little bit about your involvement there?
Well, I'm not directly involved with them yet, but the big painting that I'm doing, which I'm keeping a secret from everyone until it's done.
It's a secret to everyone.
It is a secret to everyone except for me and well, now you and a few of my close friends. But it's a absolutely massive undertaking of a painting, and what's going to happen is once it's completed, I'm hoping that's going to be completed by the end of June. And then what I want to do is actually donate it to the Child's Play dinner auction. In Washington. I think it's Spokane, Washington, or maybe Bellevue. I think it's Bellevue, Washington, is where they have the dinner auction.
Right.
So I want to donate that painting to the dinner auction to help out with the children in the hospital, to help give them some video games and some other stuff to make their time there a little more memorable.
Yeah. I can't stress enough how awesome that organization is. There are a whole bunch of smaller events. If you go to childsplay.com, or I think it's .com or .org, there are a whole bunch of like gaming marathons that folks put together, and then all the money that they raise gets donated to Child's Play, and it's awesome. I think it's very cool when gamers come together and do philanthropic work, because it serves to show people that it's not all about a bunch of people sitting, being antisocial, playing Call of Duty, and then becoming violent, which unfortunately has become the pervasive stereotype in our culture. And it's interesting because you are a little bit older than I am. You remember when there was a bunch of controversy about the violence in 16-bit games, which compared to the violence now is extremely tame.
Well, I remember playing Mortal Kombat 2 in the arcades, and I only ripped out a few heads with the spines dangling. So it was only a couple. I tried to rip the flesh off of someone before, but that really didn't work.
Yeah. You had to write down those combos or whatever from Nintendo Power or wherever that you could find them. That was the home version, I guess. But they were translated from the arcade version. But Chris and I were also talking a little bit about two things that are cool but should always be separate, which is cars and booze. So why don't you talk about the cars first, and then we'll move into the booze aspect of 8-bit, in fact.
Yes, all 8-bit goodness. I'm personally moving out to the Phoenix area in the end of the summer, and I've met two people through my art there. They're Brian and Ryan. Brian is actually the driver to the car 8-bit Miata. He does drifting and everything. And he painted his car so it looks 8-bit, and he has the flip-up headlights with these big googly eyes and everything. And
yeah, it's very fun. If you Google image search 8-bit Miata, it's wonderful.
Yeah, and he has a friend named Ryan who is a brewer, and he's actually opening up the 8-bit brewery. And he brews his own stuff and he names them after and NES type stuff. Like for example, he has the White Mage Ale. And those two have been promoting each other in the Phoenix area. And Ryan is looking to open up his own brewery, his own 8-bit brewery, January of 2015. And he's actually going to let me do all the decor inside of the brewery. So I'm hoping to do a huge wall mural, all pixelated. Hopefully have a lot of paintings hanging up. Maybe do some 3D cube sculptures somewhere and hang them up in the brewery. Maybe do some question blocks and hang them from the ceiling, and people can maybe try and hit them with their head. Although that might not be a very good idea with people drinking.
I was going to say, but once they do drink, they can think that they're Mario or something. You know what I mean? You see the question marks, and your inhibition is lowered.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's funny, I'm moving out there, and I planned to move out there before I met these guys, and it just seemed like everything's falling into place for a nice 8-bit trifecta out in the Phoenix area coming up. And I think Ryan actually got a table at the Phoenix Comic-Con, so I'm actually going to send out some of my art to him so he can sell it at the Phoenix Comic-Con.
Excellent. That's very good. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else because we were speaking just kind of a little bit about video games, and I'm thinking about what stuff would sound cool on the record. You were talking about a bit about you are the 8-bit artist, but we were talking about 16-bit games because those are my favorites, and some of yours as well. And you were talking about the difference between the color palette on the SNES and the original NES, the NES and then the SNES, and how wildly more expansive the SNES color palette is, and that you have to create your own custom colors.
Yeah, you know, with 16-bit, the big piece that I'm going to be donating to Child's Play is 16-bit. If I had to make a guess, it's probably going to be around 75 colors, and I will probably have to custom mix most of them. If I can get away with using a paint that's directly out of the tube, I will. But most of the time, it's not really the case, you know. So I'm sitting there mixing paints in my little Tupperware containers and trying to save them, you know.
Of course. We're talking about some of those Square Enix JRPGs, especially like Chrono Trigger, which there are certain scenes from that game that are very very well known and kind of classic, that are very difficult. So I'm going to ask you this question I haven't asked you before. Are there any particular, bouncing off that, are there any particular scenes in video games that you've drawn that you're proud of, or that you are excited to maybe tackle in the future? I remember you saying that the campfire scene from Chrono Trigger would be excellent but extremely difficult. Yeah,
and I mean, I would love to do that. I would love to have someone commission me to do that. To just paint it, just for the hell of it, you know. I would have to charge so much for it. Like I feel like my prices are relatively cheap compared to other artists out there, and even like that a painting that would be like 100 hours, even if I just say okay, I'm just gonna make $10 an hour, like I would still have to charge $1,000 for that painting.
Right.
And that doesn't include the paint that I use, the canvas, and the supplies and everything. So like with the big painting I'm doing with Child's Play, that's probably going to be over 200 hours, but it's going to a good cause and everything, so I'm fine to put my time in with that. But there's been a lot of scenes. There's like the Chrono Trigger scene. There's a lot of scenes from Final Fantasy VI I would like to do. Definitely Yoshi's Island, Super Mario World 2, even Super Mario World 1. Looking back at everything I've painted, I've never done a Super Mario World painting. I don't know how it went under my radar.
Yeah, that's a little crazy.
Yeah, it really is. So that's definitely on my list to do. The funny thing is, on my computer, I have a list of paintings that are like all mapped out and everything, ready to go. I just have to do them, and a couple of paintings I have a Sonic painting all mapped out, a Shinobi painting, Earthbound. Trying to think of some other stuff I have. I have a couple of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle paintings ready to go. So it's just a matter of once I finish this big piece at the end of June, I'll be able to start tackling some smaller stuff.
Yeah, I've heard exactly how large this painting will be, and I've seen part of it, and I can attest to its insane proportions, both in awesome and just sheer volume and size.
Yeah, the pixel count for this painting is 111,747 pixels.
A lot of pixels. It's a whole lot of pixels. More pixels than bits, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, once I did the math and mapped out like exactly how many pixels, I was just like, oh man, what did I get myself into, And then but doesn't that, because in my experience, when I've gotten to do anything that I've seen other people do, you gain an appreciation for the craft. Has making pixel art given you a greater appreciation for the people who came up with the sprites in general and then had to like animate them and make them do stuff? Oh, absolutely, man. Like, looking at the piece that I'm doing now for Child's Play, just the detail in the sprites is amazing, and then to have them animated and everything, they just did wonderful, wonderful work back then. And even today, a lot of pixel artists do a lot of amazing work. My one friend, Jude Buffum, does a lot of pixel art stuff, and he does all his stuff is original. Like the one thing that he did was he did a pixel piece from the Legend of the Hidden Temple, that old Nickelodeon.
Oh my God, that's awesome! Yes, I was just watching some of that on YouTube.
He has Olmec on the right.
What an awesome
side.
guy!
And then the guy that would jump out and grab the kids to the left, and there's a kid swinging on the vine, flipping off the Aztec temple guy.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
So he does really great stuff like that. So I could definitely appreciate like all the stuff that he does and everything.
What's the split between stuff that you do just for commission and then stuff you do and then eventually sell? Is it like a 30-70 split, a 50-50? Like how many people come to you and those projects take up a bulk of your time, or the other way around, stuff you do and then try to sell afterwards?
I do more stuff for myself than I do commissions. Most of the paintings I have made, I've sold. I think I've sold almost 200 paintings.
Very cool.
And believe it or not, a lot of those paintings came from like MySpace back in the day. When like the video game music scene of like stuff like the mini bosses and the Advantage and Entertainment System, all those bands that would do rock covers of Nintendo themes. You know, once that started to get really popular, that's the time when like I started painting. So one band that would do the bitch end shows is a band called Entertainment System, which they're not around anymore. But they transformed into a band called Rare Candy. That they still do video game music, but yeah, we all just kind of started doing like our thing and coming up that way, and a lot of the stuff, like I have a lot of paintings done for the upcoming conventions.
Right.
I'm hoping, you know, a lot of them will sell, and a lot of the bigger pieces that might be like $400 or $500. What I do is I actually raffle them off, so people that can't afford a $400 painting, you know, they can maybe win it for $5 if in the raffle.
Right.
And you know, the more people that enter the raffle, I'm still getting the money that I feel like I should get compensated for the painting, but at the same time, people aren't shelling out like that the entire, you know, price of the painting.
Which is definitely cool. I can only imagine the time and care, because I'm a record collector, and so I've shipped records across the country. The amount of like you have to package that perfectly before you send it out, or like bad stuff happens. Bad stuff happens to good art.
You know, I've only had one painting damaged during transit, and it was actually I did a 3D cube sculpture of an E-Tank from Mega Man.
Oh, cool.
And the person bought the sculpture, and he bought a 14x11 DuckTales painting.
Cool.
So I packaged them together, and you know, I thought I packaged them very well, but when the painting and the sculpture came to him, I guess during shipping, the sculpture slammed into the painting and made a huge gash across the painting. And when the guy that bought it, he bought quite a few pieces off of me, so he had my phone number and he texted me. And at first I thought he was kidding, but then he sent me a picture of it. And I'm like, oh man. So he was like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, listen, man. I'm like, you know, he bought a lot of stuff from me, so he wanted another DuckTales painting. So I'm like, tell me what you want, I'll paint it, and I'll ship it out to you. So he wanted a launch pad carrying Scrooge across the sky. So I did that painting for him. It was the same size, you know, 14x11. So I knocked it out in like a couple days and sent it to him. So I was like, you can keep the other painting if you want to like tape the gash and hang it up still. You can do that if you want, you know. So
rock and roll.
I give him a free painting, you know. Because I was like, I guess I should have packaged it better. I thought I packaged it well enough, but I guess
yeah.
It happens.
No, there are horror stories. Like I wanted to ship a guitar across the country, and so I googled shipping a guitar through USPS, and then there are these long forum threads from forums that I'm not a part of, and people just post pictures of like if you don't package it, there were just guitars with like broken necks and all. These are in cases too. It's not like they just like threw them, just gave them the guitar and slapped a shipping label on them. That stuff unfortunately does happen, and it is a major drag when it does.
Well, the my buddies, the Goth Elf brothers, they did 3D sculptures of Quote from Cave Story,
Oh, nice.
and his I forget the name of the girl that's in there too, but they did two sculptures of it, and the person that bought it was actually the creator of Cave Story.
Oh, that's awesome.
So here they actually shipped it out to him, and for whatever reason it came back to the Goth Elf brothers, and it was still in the package. Nothing was open or anything. But when they opened the package back up, both of the sculptures were shattered. Like they were just absolutely crushed. So I don't know. Sometimes no matter how well you package it, something can go wrong.
Something can fall onto something. That's like the absolute worst. My biggest fear is like something is in a truck. You know what I mean? And then the truck driver has to swerve to avoid a car or something, and then
Yeah.
and then a refrigerator falls on top of a piece of art, and then that's just gravity, man.
Yeah, that's just it. There's no amount of bubble wrap and packing peanuts can stop that from getting annihilated.
Oh my God, yeah. So it's interesting that you do some 3D work too, not just the pixel stuff.
Yeah, I tried to branch out a little bit. I mean, believe it or not, painting squares constantly gets kind of boring every once in a while.
Of course.
So I had the idea of making 3D sculptures, but actually keeping them pixelated. So I found a wood supplier online that has these little cubes, and the first one that I did was an underworld Goomba, and that one came out pretty well. And from there, I did a paratrooper as well. I did the E-Tank from Mega Man, and I actually did the hero from 3D Dot Game Heroes from PS3.
Great game.
I did from who's the main guy from there. That game was awesome. I absolutely love that game. It was like it took like the 3D sculptures that I do and put it into a game,
Right.
and basically made it like Zelda. I mean, I absolutely love that game. That's an underrated gem on the PlayStation 3.
Yeah, I remember. I think IGN had this. They had because you could create a character, save that data, and then you could give that character data to somebody else, so their character can look like whatever you made. And so somebody uploaded or gave IGN or one of the editors made a pixel perfect Link. And so I went through that game as Link, and I'm like, yeah, best non-Nintendo Zelda game ever.
Hey, there used to be a forum. I think it went under, but there used to be a forum where everyone would just upload their creations.
Yeah.
And I saw some amazing stuff. I saw someone made like Batman, Isaac from Dead Space, Chrono from Chrono Trigger.
Right.
Someone made a Snake in the cardboard box, which I thought was really awesome.
That's genius. That I didn't even think about. Jeez.
So they made some really, really awesome stuff.
Well, I have one final question, and that's, do you ever do, because we spoke earlier a little bit about the process of you finding pixel art from a gallery online or playing a game. Have you ever done any 3D to 2D conversions where you take a game that is that has a character in 3D and then try and like map it out in like a pixely way? Because that I can only imagine is extraordinarily frustrating because you don't have a perfect template. You have like a photograph kind of.
I personally haven't done that. There are some stuff. I did a pixelated Journey painting. But someone else did the pixel art for it. I actually found it on DeviantArt. And I was like, man, this is amazing. Like, I want to paint this. I want this on my wall. And so I emailed them. I'm like, I was like, I would love to paint this thing, and they were super excited for it, and the journey painting I really like that one came out really awesome, and the guy on DeviantArt that did it, man, I'm having a brain fart. I forget his name, but and on DeviantArt, or even on my Facebook account, I have a link to his original pixel art that he did, that I based the painting off of.
Yeah, I can only imagine that that's extraordinarily frustrating. I guess if I could think about how to do it, it would maybe if you found like concept art, and so it's a 2D image rather than the 3D render. You could kind of like you can more easily extrapolate there, but even that's like I can only imagine that's extraordinarily difficult.
Yeah, and there's programs out there where like if you throw a picture in, it'll try and make it pixelated, but they never come out how you really want it to look.
Yeah, no, and that's the unfortunate bit. I mean, there is a term called pixel perfect, and I've never heard the term polygon perfect. So I think that is you want to make everything kind of look good, which is why I've heard I don't know if you listened to the podcast Retronauts. It's a podcast about retro games. It used to be a 1UP podcast, and then when 1UP went under, they did a Kickstarter to make it independent. And it's a wonderful resource for. They talk about all sorts of old stuff, and it's a great resource if you want to kind of learn about old games. And in fact, some of the cast members of Retronauts, Jeremy Parrish and Bob Mackey, specifically write for Retro, the magazine. I've lost my train of thought, but something about 2D games. I can assure you that they've spoken about something that we were just talking about when I completely lost my way through the forest of thought.
There's too many pixels and 8-bits going on.
Yeah. Oh no, they were talking. Somebody wrote in. They had a question air episode, and somebody wrote in about like, do they have CRT TVs with like SCARP cables plugged into them so that they can have like or some sort of like $300 converter box, which like makes the SNES or NES or any sort of pixel based games completely perfect on an HD monitor where there's like inherent fuzz or something, and they're like, no.
No, I'll tell you what, that'd be pretty amazing if you could.
Yeah, no, I'll find the link to whatever the guy was talking about, and I'll send it to you over Twitter. But yeah, it's a $300 box, and you plug the composite cables into it, and then you plug it into a television, and it does something, and makes it like completely perfect on an HD screen, which like if you're a purist is like the way to do it. Or to have an old CRT television that's like, there's like a golden age where like the flat screen, flat panel CRT TVs, like if you buy these certain ones, it'll look like extra crisp. People are very dedicated to pixels more than they are to polys, unless you're talking about resolution, in which case, holy hell, if it's 720p and not 1080p, tables are being flipped.
I mean, even on other gaming websites that I'll visit, and I personally have a PS4, although I haven't been playing it that much just because I've just been painting so much. But man, you read those comments and it's just like, oh my God, it's like just shut up about it already.
Resolution Gate 2014. Oh, it's so bad.
It's just like, oh, the fanboys is just crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, no, people are very dedicated to the pixels, and if it's done, it needs to be done right. Which, and we referenced it earlier. Mercenary Kings is a recent game that came out, and it's like a 16-bit game.
I have it downloaded on my PS4. I haven't played it yet, but with PlayStation Plus, I'll log on and make sure I download all the free games that come out for that. Yeah, I remember when Mercenary Kings was first on Kickstarter. It's like, oh man, I'm like, this looks like awesome, and it's from the same guy that did the pixel art from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Right.
Who does awesome pixel art.
Yeah, it's definitely a love letter to like Metal Slug-like games, which is a series that.
And like with Kickstarter, like I personally love the the pixel resurgence in indie games. I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, that's actually we've spoken about the NES and the SNES. I got a question. Have you done scenes from portable games, either from the Game Boy or the Game Boy Advance? Because the Game Boy Advance was like the bastion of the resurgence back when it came out in like 2001 until it was killed in 2005 with the DS. There's a ton of great, almost lost SNES classics on that handheld.
Yeah, I haven't. I've done a couple bead sprites from like the GBA. I think I did one from the Mario and Luigi RPG.
Right. Superstar Saga or whatever. Or
Yeah, with Bowser holding up a big Goomba ball above his head. I did that as a perler bead, but painting wise, I really haven't. Just because I didn't own a Game Boy Advance. So I tend to paint stuff that I owned and kind of I hold near and dear to me.
Right.
But I definitely wouldn't turn down like a cool commission from like a GBA game or just a Game Boy game in general. I think it would be funny to paint a painting in the original Game Boy color palette.
Oh God, green and gray.
Yeah, green.
Two colors.
Like, you puke green and everything,
I still have. I've been, I started playing video games at a very young age, and so I have my original yellow Game Boy.
Yeah.
And I would rock that thing everywhere until 2001 when the Game Boy Advance came out. So I'd just be like, all right, guess I'm gonna play Pokemon on this brick for a while.
For whatever reason, I never got into the handheld scene at all.
There's some great games that you're missing out on.
I mean, I've played a bunch of Game Boy Advance games on my computer through like the emulator and everything. But stuff on like the DS and the 3DS and stuff.
That gets a little bit further away from the pixel art. The DS. What's unfortunate about it is it's got a great catalog, but it suffers from what I like to call I guess Generation 3 syndrome, where games from the PSX and the N64 have not aged well. You go back. You spoke about Tomb Raider earlier. You play that original game. There's a whole bunch of triangles.
Yeah, definitely.
And so the DS suffers from that. But I was thinking when I asked that question, the thought that entered my mind is the opening scene from Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, where he's like on a horse, and there's like a particular screenshot where he's where they had a cinematic on the Game Boy, which is definitely not a cinematic at all.
Oh, from Oracle of Seasons.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe it was the Oracle game.
I actually did that painting.
There we go. See? Great minds.
I completely forgot. I actually did that painting, yeah.
There we go. So I was thinking, I'm like, no, there's the particular screen in Zelda where like that would make complete and absolute sense doing that. Yes, that's very funny.
It's so funny. Like I painted that in I think 2013, and I painted and it's been hanging up on my wall, and I just have a brain fart on like the games that I have and haven't done,
Yeah. Okay. Actually, yeah. I'll send you. We have because this is going to be an audio thing. I'm going to send you something. If you go into the left-hand side, we're doing this over Google Hangouts, folks. You'll get all those apps. The one in the all the way to the upper left is the chat.
Yeah.
And so that's actually the thing that I was thinking about from Link's Awakening. It's from the opening. For those, if this gets posted as a video. I will link to it. It is, well, pun intended. It is a Link holding onto a rope during the storm. It's part of the opening cinematic.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that was crazy. And in fact, that's the original Game Boy version. But the game also came out again for the Game Boy Color. In actual color, Link's Awakening DX, and if I could find the same screenshot from the color version, then you would actually get a better sense of the color palette. Oh, here we go. So here you can definitely.
The Oracle of Seasons game is actually from the Game Boy Color.
Right. Yeah. That is cool. Okay. Now the second Link, which is right under the first one, so it's confusing, is the same scene, albeit smaller, but in color, which actually is kind of impressive given that they were basically the same hardware with like the Game Boy Color had it's like a little processor bump, but mostly just the color palette, like a better graphics chip, slightly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's actually a scene that I would maybe we should talk at some point because I would like to own that because that's a very very fun interesting one. You very rarely see Link have an expression in the older games, but that's kind of like a cutscene-y thing, which is cool.
Do you know the scene that I'm talking about with him on the horse?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's actually that's the one that I thought was from Link's Awakening, but yes, it is actually from the Oracle games.
Yeah. Yeah, we can definitely talk about that. That's actually I've looked at that scene before, but like I've done a lot of Zelda, so
Yeah.
I was like, well, let me try and do some other games. But for commissions, I'm up for anything, you know.
Yeah. No, I think that's such an interesting one. Link in action.
Yeah.
doing kind of what he does. Okay. That's cool. I have another question. Would you ever, because you do this, would you ever consider if somebody reached out to you who's making a game, would you ever consider doing original pixel art for a game ever?
Actually, no, I wouldn't.
Because that's crazy. You have to think of like how that all works, and then draw every single scene, like how they look when they turn left, how they turn when they look right, and like back and forth.
Because I mean, this art. I mean, this is just a hobby. You know, this is a hobby. Like I do have a full-time job.
Right.
I don't have one right now in between moves, but in September is when my new job starts. So it's like if I did that, I would basically have to cut out all art, painting line, you know, to do something like that. And you know, there's better pixel artists out there than me, so they can, you know, they can definitely do something a lot better. Like I mainly just stick to painting and everything, you know.
Well, we have covered in part 2 philanthropy, Link's Awakening, which is everybody's favorite topic. Well, thank you again. This has been an extended interview, but it's been very fun. It's been very good. I feel we have a good conversation.
I'm glad I can keep it interesting.
Oh, please, no, it's good. It's excellent. Yeah, after we get off this, we should talk a little bit about that Link's Awakening piece, because that sounds interesting.
Who knows? Maybe there'll be a part 3. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. Maybe later on. I would love to chat with you again. Maybe after the 8-bit bar opens up, you should take some photographs, and we can see. Maybe we'll put it on the site or somewhere.
That would be amazing. Yeah, definitely.
Because that would be super cool. I think that definitely falls into the oeuvre, because gamers do enjoy some of the craft beverages from time to time.
And I always wanted to do an entire wall, but it's something that I wouldn't do inside of my own house.
Right.
So with the opportunity to possibly do an entire wall mural of pixelated, like an entire stage or something.
Right.
I'm super, super excited to try and do that.
Yeah, no, that I'm excited to see what you do. I've seen your work, and it is very impressive, sir.
Thank you.
So thank you again for granting this interview to myself, and of course also to Retro, where it will reside.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
Excellent. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.